A lot of blood, sweat, and tears go into making a great sci-fi movie, and every so often a production comes along that takes things way too far. Fans rejoiced in the early 1980s at the news of a big screen adaptation of The Twilight Zone. Twilight Zone the movie brought together Steven Spielberg, John Landis, George Miller, and Joe Dante, each of whom directed a segment of The Greater Whole. 3 stories remade episodes of Rod Serling's show, but Landis' portion, Time Out, was only partially based on an original episode. It also led to one of Hollywood's worst on-set catastrophes. This 1982 production was rife with questionable decisions. Renee Shin-Yi Chen and Mika Dinlay, the child stars in Time Out, worked illegally, as child labor laws forbade kids from working late at night. Even worse, live ammunition was used for the segment's action sequences. Disaster finally struck on the shoot's last night. During one scene, Vic Morrow's character was to rescue Shin-Yi Chen and Dinlay's characters from an air raid. All 3 were supposed to escape safely from a pursuing helicopter. However, on-set pyrotechnics caused the pilot to lose control of his aircraft, and it crashed into the 3 actors, killing them instantly.
It was all over. We just started spinning, went around in circles about 1.5 times or something, and crashed into the riverbed.
Landis and 4 other crew members were subsequently charged with involuntary manslaughter. Remarkably, all 5 were later acquitted. James Cameron's 1989 sci-fi classic The Abyss follows a group of petroleum engineers as they assist Navy SEALs on a top-secret mission. As they plunge 2,000 feet underwater to reach a nuclear sub, the team encounters aquatic aliens. How was all this filmed? Well, Cameron located an abandoned nuclear power plant in South Carolina. The crew filled the primary reactor containment vessel with 7.5 million gallons of water and used that for filming. Cameron shot just under half the movie underwater, meaning the cast and crew had to undergo a rigorous diving program. In addition to 70-hour work weeks, filming lasted a total of 6 months. Stars Ed Harris and Mary Elizabeth Mastrantonio later recalled their respective meltdowns, with Harris telling Entertainment Weekly, "We were guinea pigs." The director nearly plunged into his own abyss during production too. One day, the first AD suddenly left the set while Cameron was working at the bottom of the tank. As he began to run out of oxygen, Cameron removed his gear and attempted to surface. A safety diver noticed his predicament and provided Cameron with a breathing regulator, but instead of air, Cameron took in water. After the diver misunderstood the filmmaker's panic and refused to let go, Cameron punched him in the face and swam to safety. Charlize Theron is no stranger to performing physical feats. The South African-born star did 98% of her own stunts seen in Atomic Blonde. Her turn as Andy in The Old Guard was more than impressive, and she even survived the hellish production of Mad Max Fury Road. Even before these roles, Theron was involved in an on-set accident that would have made most actors swear off stunt work forever. In 2005, director Karen Kusama adapted the beloved animated TV series Æon Flux to the big screen. Theron played the titular character in the live-action sci-fi film, completing most of the fight scenes herself. Shockingly, one backflip resulted in Theron landing on her neck, almost paralyzing her. Production ceased for 8 weeks while Theron recovered. During a chat with news.com.au in 2017, Theron described her mishap as a freak accident. She explained, "I had 8 years of pain management, where I just couldn't get rid of the spasms and the nerve damage." Given Theron's continued stunt work over the years, her passion for her craft is evident. At the very least, it's good to know that her mishap on Æon Flux didn't put her off. Besides enduring themes and a hugely endearing cast, the Back to the Future franchise also includes a number of high-tech gadgets, many of which require some intricate stunt work. Back to the Future Part 2 introduced the series' iconic hoverboards, for example. Director Robert Zemeckis hired a professional stunt team, including Cheryl Wheeler-Dixon, to perform numerous airborne acrobatics for the second movie. The original stunt double, playing Griff's female gang member, had backed out over safety concerns, prompting Wheeler-Dixon to step in. For the hoverboard chase scene, Griff and his posse burst through the Hill Valley Courthouse mall window, and it was this stunt that nearly killed Wheeler-Dixon.
Great Scott!
4 performers were wired to a crane that swung them through the window. Once inside, a crew member would press a button to cut the wires, dropping them onto airbags. They were strapped in and sent flying after a few last-minute, unrehearsed changes. Notably, Greg Tippy, the special effects member responsible for pushing the button, changed his vantage point. As the scene unfolded, Wheeler-Dixon realized she had swerved off course and crashed into a pillar. Tippy didn't see the accident, however, and pressed his button, and Wheeler-Dixon crashed into the concrete. Despite suffering severe injuries, she survived. Her doctor later told her that had she fallen backwards, she might not have been so lucky. You might assume that after the horrific accident that left Cheryl Wheeler-Dixon hospitalized in Back to the Future Part 2, the crew for the trilogy's final installment would ensure that everything ran smoothly. But you'd be wrong. In fact, this 1990s sci-fi western almost claimed the life of its leading man. Back to the Future Part 3 teleported Marty McFly to 1885 to save Doc Brown from a grisly fate. Upon arriving, Biff Tannen's great-grandfather, Buford, attempts to hang our hero. While Doc comes to the rescue in the movie, it was filmmaker Robert Zemeckis who saved Fox in this near-fatal stunt. In Fox's memoir, Lucky Man, he remembers that he initially stood on a wooden box to perform the trick for the close-up shot. Fox felt the method lacked realism, so he proposed that he try the stunt without the box. Having practiced holding his hands between his neck and the rope to allow room to breathe, Fox was ready for the real deal. The actor wrote, "On the third, I miscalculated the positioning of my hand. Noose around my neck, dangling from the gallows pole, my carotid artery was blocked, causing me briefly to pass out." Luckily, Zemeckis saw Fox was unconscious and rushed to help him. Without the director's quick intervention, Fox could have suffered a severe brain injury, or even been killed outright. Everyone knows that David Lynch's 1984 adaptation of Dune bombed.
I must not fear. Fear is the mind killer.
Calling it a big failure in an interview years later, the filmmaker revealed his main takeaway from the project when he said, "Don't make a film if it can't be the film you want to make. It's a joke and a sick joke, and it'll kill you." While Lynch is still alive and well today, Dune certainly left actor Jürgen Prochnow with a few scars of the physical variety. In one scene, Prochnow's character, Duke Leto Atreides, attempts to assassinate Baron Harkonnen using a tooth implant filled with poison gas. Leto dies in the attempt, and the Baron escapes. Subsequently, the Duke's son, Paul, has a vision of his father's death. The Baron tears Leto's cheek in the dream, releasing green gas. Prochnow had a fake cheek attached to a tube to achieve the special effect. An off-camera crew member then pumped smoke that surfaced from the cheek. Testing on both a dummy and Prochnow, everything appeared safe. When filming started and gas was emitted, however, Prochnow jumped up and ran off camera holding his smoking cheek. The makeup used over the fake cheek wasn't sealed properly, allowing smoke and heat to build up before McMillan ripped it open. Prochnow sustained second and first-degree burns from the accident. 1995's Waterworld endured a nightmarish production. The Kevin Reynolds-directed flick originally had a $65 million budget, which soared to $175 million during the shoot. While script rewrites and production delays plagued the Sci-Fi set, Mother Nature emerged as the crew's primary foe. You see, Waterworld unfolds in 2500, when every continent is submerged underwater. It was, therefore, shot entirely on water. The unpredictable weather caused many complications. In addition to relentless jellyfish stings, much of the cast and crew suffered from seasickness, and Kevin Costner almost drowned when he was strapped to a trimaran's mast for one scene. During a sudden storm, water violently pelted the actor for half an hour while crew members looked on helplessly. Co-stars Jean Tripplehorn and Tina Majorino fared no better. They were hurled overboard when the bowsprit on their trimaran snapped, prompting a rescue team to dive in after them. In 2009, Tripplehorn reflected, "In retrospect, I realize it made me reluctant about films. Some folks couldn't even last that long." The assistant director, special effects designer, and other crew members all agreed that this sinking ship wasn't worth their salt, and promptly quit. The forgotten Italian sci-fi film Hands of Steel easily falls into the so bad it's good category. Directed by Sergio Martino and released in 1986, Hands of Steel stars Daniel Green and John Saxon. In the movie, Earth is a wasteland, and an evil industrialist sends a cyborg to kill the leader of an ecological faction. In what ends up being a cheap imitation of the Terminator, we discover that our anti-hero has a heart after all. Hands of Steel ranks as a fine Italian exploitation flick, but one marred by tragedy. Filming near the Glen Canyon Dam in northern Arizona resulted in 2 fatalities. In one scene, a helicopter shoots a machine gun at an actor on the Navajo Bridge, but the chopper with actor Claudio Casanelli in it hit the bridge. Falling 400 feet, both the pilot and Casanelli were killed. James Cameron got his A-list break with the Terminator, so maybe a sequel was always inevitable.
I'll be back.
Many would argue that the original boasts a tighter story, but Terminator 2 Judgment Day made waves with its groundbreaking visual effects. In addition to the CGI, T2 featured daring practical effects and stunt work. However, some of the film's most thrilling sequences put its stars at risk. Linda Hamilton, who plays Sarah Connor, suffered permanent hearing loss in one ear during production. Hamilton forgot her earplugs while shooting the hospital elevator scene, and intense noise caused the actor to drop to the ground when the T-800 fired a gun. Hamilton also claimed that the film's heavy use of gunfire and noise even left her with shell shock. Arnold Schwarzenegger faced challenges too. For his now legendary shotgun twirl, Cameron and his crew crafted a modified prop gun with an enlarged lever. At one point though, Schwarzenegger accidentally picked up the wrong weapon, performed the stunt, and nearly broke 3 fingers as a result. Following the success of 1988's Bloodsport, Cannon Films tapped Jean-Claude Van Damme to star in Cyborg, their then upcoming cyberpunk martial arts film. Described by Roger Ebert as a low-budget mix of Escape from New York and The Road Warrior, the 1989 movie tanked. The film proved so middling, in fact, that even its star found himself unimpressed, later telling the Chicago Tribune that he is no fan of it. The actor plays mercenary Gibson Rickenbacker, a man who is hired to transport cyborg Pearl Prophet from New York to the CDC in Atlanta, as she holds the cure for humanity. A martial arts and kickboxing expert, the Muscles from Brussels displayed his skills fighting baddies in the movie. However, he also may have pushed things too far during one fight sequence. In a scene where he fought a group of pirates, Van Damme accidentally struck stuntman Jackson Pinckney with a prop knife. Pinckney lost sight in one eye, which led to his discharge from the military. Subsequently, he sued Van Damme for $800,000 plus punitive damages. Pinckney claimed Van Damme caused the accident by recklessly trying to make the fight as realistic as possible. The action star denied this. He told the jury, "I never meant to hurt anybody in my entire life. I felt very sorry. I felt mentally distraught." Pinckney ultimately received $487,500 in damages.